Preseason practice continuing with workout number 3 on Monday. The team putting on the shoulder pads for the first time.
And you've been through this before. What is that locker room like when you have to talk to a group that's going through a coaching change?
South Plains Texans cutting down the net for the second time in 5 years. Good evening to you from Hutchinson, Kansas, where South Plains capped its perfect season. Brian Duncan eating some wings out here at the tailgate. I'm going to go tell Benny in the morning.
No, don't tell him, man, because he's going to make me run it off as soon as possible, man.
So Cliff Kingsbury in the middle of getting his staff together, the first man that he decided to bring it with him to West Texas, one of West Texas' own, joined by Eric Morris. Good evening one final time from Oklahoma City, where the Texas Tech men and Lady Raiders seeing their Big 12 tournaments come to an end. In his sophomore season, Scott Lejeune was one of college baseball's best hitters. Scott Lejeune with 25 doubles this season.
Scott Lejeune's just a double machine.
Just ecstatic that he's young.
In just his second season, Lejeune, all Big 12 second team, the conference leader in doubles, 7th in the nation. Tech's cleanup hitter for the most part, hitting any pitch thrown his way. But at the start of last season, it was life throwing the Red Raiders' designated hitter a curveball.
Scott Lejeune, who is out indefinitely.
Scotty is taking care of personal matters. We care about him and we're praying for him, and we're going to keep him in our thoughts, but you know, he's got to take care of his business.
It was one of the worst times of my life, just sitting there and waiting, and you have no control over it.
After just one game, Lejeune would leave school, leave Lubbock, and return to Austin, where he was later diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder.
At that time, I didn't know exactly what was going on. Sometimes I still don't. I had a lot of questions and I had no answers. As much as it hated me to say I really need to step away from the game and just look at my life, that was the most important time.
We made the good decision to do that first, to go, hey, I need to get right and get my life in order and get myself treated.
First day back in Austin, I kept dreaming and I kept hoping that one day that I could be back in Lubbock, you know, trying to figure out something to do, trying to figure out the strategy or the plan that I needed to implement.
After nearly 4 months at home recovering, Lejeune finally made the decision to return to summer school, and he returned to his team in the fall.
It's a long time coming. It's been a long process. I'm from Austin, but there's a certain feeling about Lubbock that I love, and I'm very glad and blessed to be back here.
It's awesome. It's a blessing, you know. He overcame some very difficult situations and things like that. And overall, as a team, we're just really glad to have him back. He's a big part of our lineup. He's one of our family members.
Just to be with the guys, it's a great time. I call this my family. I'm just glad to be here and actually have an opportunity to play.
DeWitt Weaver was the coach at that time. He told all of us before we left the dressing room, said, when you get out to the edge of the field, and stop and wait. And we looked up and see Joe Kirk Fulton, and came charging around the field in that black horse, and red cape flying and black Stetson on, and so we were given the word to follow him on the field. So we did. There was a news reporter or correspondent from the Atlanta Journal newspaper that put in his column that no team in any bowl game had ever made such a sensational entrance as we had that day.
And with that, the legend of the Masked Rider began. Lubbock native Joe Kirk Fulton made the historic first ride before the 1954 Gator Bowl.
I don't guess anybody could foresee how it's continued.
I mean, even Joe said in his later days, I had no idea what I'd started.
And nearly 60 years later, the Masked Rider continues the tradition, leading the Red Raider football team onto the field before every home game.
You get on that field and there's over 60,000 fans screaming, the band's playing.
It's still fascinating. It's still one of the most amazing traditions, I think, in college football.
Fulton's famous ride on Blackie was just the start of a successful run with horses. He was inducted into the American Quarter Horse Hall of Fame in 2011 for a career that helped produce 70-plus stakes winners and more than $16 million in earnings on the racetrack.
Horses have been such a huge part of my life. They helped guide me on my path. The horses gave me passage over the path. My horses soothe my soul. They feed my spirit.
Fulton passed away at the age of 81 last week, but his legacy lives on, as does the legend of the Masked Rider. Good evening and welcome into the Red Raider Nation this Tuesday. Big 12 Media Days wrapping up today in Dallas. The team's not the only ones visiting with the media. Coordinator of Big 12 officials Walt Anderson trying to explain college football's new targeting rule. Officials will assess a 15-yard penalty and have the discretion to eject the player responsible for the hit this year. Last year's hit by West Virginia on Jason Morrow that knocked him out for 6 games with a spleen injury was even used as an example during Anderson's press conference.
Targeting.
Now the entire Big 12 preparing to get their first look at Texas Tech with new head coach Cliff Kingsbury, but the majority of the Big 12 already with a history with Cliff. Baylor's Art Briles, West Virginia's Dana Holgorsen, and even Kansas's Charlie Weiss have all coached him, and 3 other Big 12 coaches have coached against him. As a Texas Tech quarterback, OSU's Mike Gundy knows what Cliff's going through as well. When he wasn't busy rocking the mullet up there in Stillwater, he was OSU's quarterback long before he became the Pokes head coach.
Well, for me, it was a great experience.
We weren't joking. Look at it right here. Brian Mudd style back in the day. Mullet. Yeah. And the mullet's certainly not a good look, but Gundy's Cowboys looking good this season as a favorite to win the Big 12. Our Brian Duncan now with a preview of the boys from Stillwater. Man, guys, Lady Raider head coach Candy White announcing the hiring of Matt Corkery as associate head coach. He comes here from American College. He spent 5 years there, actually a Whit Harrell native. Welcome back to West Texas to him. And I must say, the mullet always looks a lot better when you have Hartley, Dykes, Thurman Thomas, and Barry Sanders working with you.
It just looks good coming out of the back of the helmet.